Hello, class. It's good to be with you once again as we enter very close to the midpoint of this class. We are in week 4, and we're going to cover some very important topic as usual, specifically related to segmentation, targeting in a more specific form. We have been quite general in our discussion regarding marketing. We have studied and looked at a lot of concepts, and now we're getting down to the narrowing of these concepts from the application perspective. How can we use it in order to convert prospective customers to customers, in order to increase revenue dollars and also to increase our profit margin? So in the meantime, I hope you're doing well, you're enjoying the course, you're gaining a lot of knowledge, and you're moving forward with a continuous sense of excitement as you move forward with your MBA program. So what we're going to be doing first, we're going to be looking at 4 very specific segmentation strategy. And as you know, the word segmentation, what it means is you take the whole, you take the entire market and you divide it in sections. And there's a purpose for that. Once you divide your market in sections, then resources can be used more effectively as you target that specific segments. There are only a few companies here in the US and on planet Earth that can target the entire geography, the entire national market, or the entire global market. And those are individuals or companies that are known as mass merchandisers. We have a very large mass merchandiser that is online, known as Amazon. Everybody knows them. And we also have very large mass merchandiser on ground that also have an online presence that is known as Walmart. Now, outside of these large companies, what chance or what opportunity does other company have? And the opportunity to grow, to succeed, is not just utilizing what the big companies are doing or the strategies that the big company are using, but to be smart. And smart means be quite specific, be very targeted, oriented, use resource wisely, establish relationship and communication with your audience, and maintain a very, very effective communication process. So you have their attention, you gain their favorability, and ultimately it converts into sales, increase in revenue, and that's how we measure business success. So we're going to be looking at 4 very important segmentation strategy: geography or geographic segmentation. We will look at so let's look at geography first. The word geographic segmentation comes from the word geography. And geography is where your customer lives. And within that group of customer, let's say you're a supermarket, you will be targeting customers by geography within a 4 or 5 miles radius, because everybody consumes grocery products. But what happens if you're a specialty product? You might be targeting individual based on certain criteria, and we will look at those criteria. But geography or geographic segmentation has a lot to do also in the global environment. And there are certain countries across the world that are considered to be emerging or developing. And for companies that has new technology or has building material or are focusing on infrastructure, they will be targeting those countries. Now, how about our domestic marketplace? Our domestic marketplace also, we have seasonality, as a factor to consider. Here in Florida, the seasonality is very strong for consumer products during the winter season because a lot of people move down here, and you would notice demand for hotel rooms increase quite a bit, and also the price doubled because it's an opportunity to take advantage of the demand that is moving into the marketplace. So geographically, certain geographies across the world and across the country makes a very important point of view in order to segment our market. The other thing that we can look at geography, although we have Florida is a very good vacation resort, we do have some challenges here. How about hurricane? Hurricanes are, it presents an opportunity for companies like Home Depot and like Lowe's. They can target residents here because we all have to get prepared for hurricane. And that's a very good revenue opportunity for Lowe's and for any one of your home builders. The other segmentation that we are going to look at is demographic segmentation. Now, the word demographic, it's a strange word, and it did not come from the word demonic. It simply represents the statistical distribution of the human population based on certain specificity. And some of those specificities we can look at happens to be age. And quite often you hear about generation groups. You hear about Generation X, Generation Y, Generation Z, the millennial generation. We hear about the senior citizen. These are all very distinct groups. And these are very large groups of individuals. And it is believed that these groups share certain characteristics that are quite important from a targeting perspective. So we can generalize based on those segmentation, and yet we can be quite specific based on those segmentation. Demographic also, we look at gender. You can look at gender. You can target gender by male, gender by female. You can also look at occupation. You can target individuals who are professionals and versus those who are, blue collar or white collar employees. And we can target individual by virtue of their income. And so who will target individual based on income? Most likely you're looking at premium luxury products, whether it is consumer products, wearable, such as clothing, such as jewelry, or whether it's transportation, such as cars, and so forth. So those are ways that resources will not be used inappropriately, but quite wisely as we select those target audience. The third group that we're going to look at is psychographic, which is part of your demographic and also part of your geographic. So if you look at these things quite carefully, people have to live somewhere. And so that's where geographic comes in. Then we narrate a little bit more in terms of the demographic, specifically certain segment, and then probably income. And then you narrate a little bit more. And so psychographic does not, or didn't come from the word cycle, psychopath. It just means lifestyle. It's a little bit different. It's a strange word, but in marketing, it means lifestyle. Individuals who are looking for a certain lifestyle. And, there are individuals who are very image-oriented and who are very status-oriented, and decisions to purchase products are based on the perception of the external world towards their personality. So they may be looking again at products that are image-oriented. They may look at, a lot of these folks who are psychographic based. They may not go to the regular supermarket, but they may be buying their groceries from Whole Foods, and they may be very involved in health and fitness. So you may see a lot of these folks who are looking at their health. They're looking at their conditions on a general scale. There is a market for folks like these individuals. It's a specialty market, and this market, these folks are targeted quite heavy, and the response rate is quite successful, or else the companies would have been going out of business. And you would see that Whole Foods has been so successful in spite of the high price that they charge for their products, that they were acquired by Amazon. Amazon is moving forward towards collecting a lot of good companies that are, or acquire a lot of good companies that is bringing products that is high in the marketplace. And fourth, we will look at the generalization of people that are psychographic based and also demographic based and also geography. They have to live somewhere else. And we will look at behavioral. Behavioral is what goes on in their mind, what goes on in their head, how decisions are made. And as you know, we all make decisions every day regarding what to buy, what not to buy, what to eat, what not to eat. And some of those decisions, from a purchasing perspective, are made impulsively. We may see products that we like, and probably for a short period of time, they are on very large discount. And those discounts are considered to be economic opportunities. It enters our emotion. We make decisions very quickly without much analysis, and we will buy those products. Sometimes we're very happy and pleased with the decision. Sometimes we're very disappointed. And so behaviorally, that's a target audience. The opposite to impulsive buyers are budget-oriented individuals. There are certain folks, and probably we have some of them in the class, who are very serious planners. They don't make bad decisions. They anticipate the future. They look at their income. They budget very, very carefully, and they will be quite committed to their budgetary guidelines. So by definition, this is the behavioral component. So regardless of who we are, which demographics we fall into, most likely we have to make decisions, whether it's quick, impulsive, whether it's planned out, budgetary driven, or whether it's influenced by other folks. We are always part of a group, whether it's family, whether it's church, whether it's your social group, and what they do sometimes influence us. And so business are smart. They are understanding of how decisions are made, and they will build messages, and they will target these individuals, and they will communicate quite appropriately to ensure that they have the best opportunity to participate in that exchange, sell them products. And so again, it's strategic oriented as we take the big general market and we break it down in segmentation. So what are some of the strategic benefit of a segmentation strategy? Some of it, number one, is creating a customized marketing mix. And you guys remember marketing mix involves the 4 Ps, or the commonly known 4 Ps, which happens to be your product, your price, your promotion, which is advertising, and also distribution, which is your place. And we have also online, which is known as space. So it helps companies to look at those 4 components, because regardless of the industry that a company is part of, whether you are in the education or service legal, or whether you're in manufacturing, or whether you're in healthcare, those 4 will always be standard, which is product, price, your promotion, advertising, or communication with your target audience, and a distribution methodology that can bring this exchange process towards a closure. And so segmentation helps companies to better understand the characteristics of how decisions are made, and they can design a strategy that is quite appropriately. So these are not randomly selection, and these are not random decision making. These are strategic oriented, because companies compete every day for their success. And companies, it's not who has the most resource would win, but it's who is much more connected to the audience that they target have a greater opportunity, because they will use their resources more effectively. So knowledge is a very important component of strategy, and gaining the knowledge of your target audience by putting them in segmentations and study them very, very carefully gives us quite an appropriate opportunity. The other thing about segmentation is, as you know, the world is dynamic. It's not static. It changes over time. And so it's not that the world changes, but people change as their life change. We have products in the form of technology that bring some of those changes. And we also have changes in terms of life cycle changes, in terms of income changes, in terms of environmental changes. And so what normally happens with segmentation, companies can also customize as the marketplace change. They can change their strategy from a customization perspective. So strategies that have expired are not continually used, because obviously it will not produce the kind of result companies are looking for. So what determines effective segmentation? There are 5 things that we're going to look at. Number one, it must be measurable. Measurable is a quantifiable approach, not a qualifier approach to say, well, this segment looks good. It must be measurable. So it's a numbers game, because we're looking at outcomes. And what is outcome of strategies? Either we're successful in growing or attaining our goals, or not successful by not producing the results that we wanted. Second, it must be substantial, because we're going to utilize resources that adds cost to the company. And if the size of the market is not large enough to give us that return, then quite obviously the chance of success becomes a little bit slimmer. So the other thing that we want to concern ourselves with from the word substantial is the size of the competitive market. How many competitors are do we have in this market? For instance, if you take a look at the Florida market and you ask the question, if we look at fast food services or quick service food, there are a lot of them in South Florida. And let's take one, which is your largest and probably historically most well-known in South Florida, McDonald's. McDonald's will target a geography of 100,000 people, and if they can only get 2% of that on a weekly basis, which is 2,000, it's a good decision to set up a McDonald's franchise. The 98% can be shared by the competitors. So it's not that they're straining themselves or working excessively hard or throwing money just crazily and hope that things would work out. It is a substantial nature from a research point of view that they have identified size, and now they're looking to see what is financially or strategically feasible for them. Third, accessibility. Certain markets are not easily accessible. Number one, because of infrastructure reasons, roads, ports, airports, or right now, internet, maybe internet connection is not there. Accessibility also has a lot to do with legal, whether there are regulatory limitations as to what a company can do. Accessibility is quite important that we should look at. On some cases also, you may have markets that is not to say regulatory preventive from entry, but it's so strongly associated with competition that we may not have an easy entry. So as a newcomer, it might be best not to get into a marketplace that is extremely competitive if we don't have a very well-defined and compelling strategy. Third, differentiable, because in a competitive market, if you do the same thing that your competitors are doing, the chance of attracting their customer is slim. Because what is the advantage of their customer coming over and do business with you? It has to be something of significant dissatisfaction. But how about opportunity? They may not be unhappy or dissatisfied, but yet they will come over if they see something that is beneficial to themselves. And remember those, the segmentation. We look at demographic. It might be income, it might be budgetary approach. It might be also psychographic based, which is lifestyle approach, or it might be behavioral based. These are all opportunities that helps us. So it must be differentiable. And last of the reason must be actionable. Your strategy must have an opportunity to gain some level of response. If the marketplace ignores it, then it's not actionable. If it's not appropriately developed, then it's going to fall on deaf ears. So it has to be actionable, where the opportunity to get people to listen, where the opportunity to get them to understand, where the opportunity to get them to try your product, where the opportunity there is to get them to participate in an exchange, and then a continuation to get them to follow up as repeat buyers, and ultimately loyal buyers are very, very important. So segmentation from a construct point of view and from a strategy point of view, it is both long-term and short-term, and we can probably add a third category, which is intermediate. So how do we use segmentation also? We also use it from a product positioning perspective. Now, this word positioning is not the same as placement, meaning to say products that are exposed to consumer attention in retail stores or on website. This is beyond the exposure to one's taste and beyond the exposure to one's side. This is much more getting into that behavioral side where decisions are made. It is mindset. It is a favorability within the minds of consumer as we compare products. There are folks who are loyal to certain brands. They will not drive anything unless it's a BMW. And so that's positioning. BMW has done a great job in positioning the product as the best choice to fit those specific customer needs. The same with products, consumer-based wearable. Some people will not wear certain brands because it doesn't fit them well, or they just don't like that brand, or it's not meeting their needs. So those are positioning strategies. So before decisions are made, it has to enter the minds of individual. Whether it's impulsive or whether it's repeatable, meaning habitual in nature, or whether it's budgetary driven, it has to have some sort of connection to likability, and that's where product position comes in. So if you look at this whole trend now, we're going to summarize the segmentation that we have just done. We're going to look at it from a segmentation. This is the logistical approach towards getting the information, identifying the target audience, getting the information that is strongly connected to how decisions are made, And of course, we build the strategy. The strategy is the bridge. It is not just bring in products and hope that things would happen. Because in marketing, hope is great as a point of, being hopefulness, but it's not a strategy. So we want to build that strategy. We want to target that audience. We want to build a positioning within their mindset that would give us a continuity at business success. I hope this has been quite informative, and I hope that you would understand the value of segmentation in any industry as we move forward. So have a great evening, and I look forward to seeing you in week 5.